Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Today we are going to start a series of lecture on theory and criticism, and these lecture would be meant primarily for those students who are doing BS in English and they are in the seventh semester from the affiliated colleges of Punjab University. And so today we are going to start Hegel's lecture on fine arts. Since this essay is a very long essay and this is a very complicated essay, so I would not be able to give you an introduction to Hegel and this and that, so you can find this on your own. So let's start from the key terms that have been used in this essay, and I have taken these two key terms from the Norton Anthology of Literary Theory and Literary Criticism. You can benefit from them. So Hegel lecture on fine arts. It means that Hegel actually delivered lectures on fine arts, and this is you can say this is a collection of his lectures, and this is divided into different parts A, B, C, D, and E. So let's start from the key terms. What are the key terms? Art. What is art? First of all, we need to understand what is art. We need to understand the definition of art. So the conscious use of skill and creative imagination, especially in the production of a static object, this is called art. So we can understand very well that art is something that is created with the help of imagination, and that appeals to our aesthetic sense. In order to understand art, we need to understand something about human beings. As far as human beings are concerned, they are different from other animals in multiple ways, and one of those ways in which they are different from other animals is that they have the aesthetic sense. Aesthetic sense means that they appreciate what is beautiful. The appreciation of what is beautiful, you can say it is inherent in human nature. So that is why you can say that aesthetic sense is very important, and art is something that you can say it appeals to our aesthetic sense, and imagination is also involved in art. So what fine art is the key word in this in these lectures of Hegel. All this art like music, painting, sculpture, architecture, so these are all called fine arts, and the fine arts are also meant to appeal our aesthetic sense. I can give you an example for I can give you an example in order to prove this thing. For example, if you can say other animals like the goat enters a garden, you know that the goat destroys a garden because it does not have any aesthetic sense. But on the other hand, when you talk about human beings, what do? They spend a lot of money in for their gardens and for their, you can say, homes and all these things. So fine arts, it is called funun latifa in Urdu, funun latifa. So sculpture, literature, painting, they are all called fine arts. So this means that this lecture is going to be about what Hegel's views about fine arts. Aesthetics is aesthetics is a branch of philosophy that deals with the beauty as an art. It deals with the sources of beauty. What is beauty? Whether beauty is external or whether it is internal. So these are the things that are discussed in aesthetics. Then ethics is also another branch of philosophy that deals with the morality. What is bad? What is, you can say, good? What should we do? What should we not do? What is a proper behavior? What is not a proper behavior? So this is not so important here. Phenomenology is a very important term. Phenomenology in a general sense is the study of the conscious experience and the structure of human consciousness. It seeks to describe and analyze how things appeal to us in a subjective experience. Actually, you can say that the main focus of phenomenology is that how things appeal to us. In order to explain this, I can give you an example of example of the way that we perceive the world, the way that we perceive the world, and what we feel, you can say, within ourselves when we perceive the world. This is called phenomenology, and in phenomenology subjectivity is very important. Yani the most important thing in phenomenology is subjectivity, not objectivity. Dialectic is a method that has been you can say advanced by Hegel. In Urdu, we use the word jadliyat for dialectic. In dialectic, there are two arguments, two counter arguments, and Hegel divided dialectic into three parts. thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Thesis mean one idea, and one idea has the counter idea. This is called the synthesis, antithesis. And when thesis and antithesis, when they combine together, they make up a synthesis, and then synthesis becomes a thesis, and that is how the circle will go on. But I would not like to go to this debate in a detailed manner, because this would be irrelevant from our perspective. So we would be moving directly to our you can say lecture. So as far as Hegel, as far as these lectures are concerned, these lectures are divided into, you can say, 4 or 5 parts: A, B, C, D. 5 parts, you can say. I have wrongly written 4 parts. These are the 5 parts in which the lecture has been divided. 5 parts. So in the first part, Hegel's critique of mechanistic art production and importance of spiritual activity in artistic creation. Then Hegel, you can say, he talks about revisiting the role of talent, genius, and technique in artistic creation, historical perspective. So we will move directly to the first part, that is called part A. Part A. So the title of the part A that I have given is Hegel's critique of mechanistic art production and importance of spiritual activity in artistic creation. So actually Hegel, in this part, Hegel, you can say, criticizes mechanistic art production. So I have divided this part of the lecture into different headings, and I have highlighted these headings in the green. They will be very helpful to you from the examination point of view and for the general understanding of the essay. So Hegel, what does Hegel mean by art? It means that in this part, Hegel would be able to discuss his own definition, his own understanding of what is art. So according to Hegel, according to him, art can be understood as a consciously created external object. Consciously creating external object, this means that this is called art. This is called art. For example, in order to give you an example, I am giving you my own example in order to give you an example. For example, there is a poem, the poem Daffodil, that is written by William Wordsworth. You can easily, or you can say without any difficulty, say that this is art. You can say this is an art form. So so this means that this is a consciously created external object. Actually, what we have right now, we have the poem of William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth is not, you can say, before us right now. But when we read the poem of William Wordsworth, Daffodil, then we can be able, very easily be able to go into the spiritual experience or the depth of feelings of William Wordsworth that he has gone. He has undergone in order to create this, you can this external object. And what is the purpose of this external object? The purpose of this is to impart us aesthetic pleasure. And Hegel is of the opinion that many people believe that since art is a human activity, art is a result of human activity. I would be able to explain it in greater detail. How is art a result of human activity? For example, if somebody is creating a poem, somebody wants to write a poem, this means that he has to undergo, or he has to go through some spiritual experience for the creation of this poem. And you can say that actually the physical form of the poem, it is actually representative of the spiritual experience that the poet has gone through in order to create that emotion. So this means this is a definition of art. And many people are of the opinion that since art is a human activity, art is the result of human activity, it can be imitated, it can be learned, it can be taught, it can be comprehended. So the question is that, for example, the question is that, can we create a work of art merely by following the rules, merely by knowing the rules? Hegel would say that we cannot do this thing at all. For example, I would say that if you want to write a poem, and if you have a book in which all the rules of poetry, all the principles of poetry are written, and all the methods of how to write a poem are written, even then you would not be able to write a poem. This is possible that you can construct a physical form of the poem, but it will lack the depth of emotion and the depth of the feelings and the depth of expression. So Hegel says this thing. Hegel is critical of mechanistic approach to art. What is mechanistic approach to art? Mechanistic approach to art mean that people, you can say, they stick to rules. They stick to rules. The people believe that merely by following the rules, they can be able to create a work of art. I can give you an example about this thing, about from the new classicist. You know that 18th century English literature or new classicism or pseudo classicism or age of Pope or age of reason, these are the different names that we use in order to refer to that age. So at that time, literary writers, especially poets, they used to follow the spirit. They used to follow the form of the ancient Greco-Roman literature, but they were not able to follow the spirit of this thing. So that is why Hegel, you can say, justifies his point of view. Hegel is of the opinion that merely by following the rules and the principles, we cannot be able to create a good work of art. For example, when we read the literature that were produced in the 18th century, at that time you see that this is rich in form, but this is very poor in, you can say, the depth of expressions. So this is the point of view. So vague generalities and the failure of artistic creations. You know very well that the books on how to write a poem, how to write a novel, how to construct, you can say, an architecture, and this and that, they actually are full of they are full of vague generalities. Vague generalities mean that very ambiguous generalities. I can explain to you with the help of an example. For example, if you want to write a short story, if you want to become a short story writer, and you are given a book on how to write a short story, what are the themes, what is the plot, what are the symbol, what are the motif, what is characterization, even then despite the fact that you know these rules very well, and despite the fact that you have grasped these rules very well, Hegel would say that you would not be able to write, you can say, good short story. And your short story, it may be a physical construct, but this physical construct, it would lack the depth of emotion, the, you can say, the depth of expression. So this is actually point. And the fourth point is a very important point, and you can say that this is the main point of, you can say, his whole lectures, all the other parts of the lectures. So art is a spiritual activity. Here what he says, what does he say? Actually, art is a spiritual activity means that art, while creating a work of art, the individual who is creating that work of art, he or she has to undergo a spiritual experience. So you can say that art is an expression of our spiritual activity. If there is no spiritual activity, then there is no art at all. Actually, Hegel is of the opinion of this thing. For example, he says that in the above mentioned discussion, we have seen how Hegel defines art and objects to the mechanistic approach to art. Thus, he has developed a thesis. According to him, the art is fundamentally a spiritual activity which cannot be created merely by sticking to mechanistic rules and principles, though rules and principles have practical utility. So, in this lecture, in this part of the lecture, Hegel has tried to define art. Art is a consciously created object, external object, and Hegel is of the opinion that art, you can say, cannot be created merely following by the rules and you can say principle. So in this part of the lecture, Hegel actually critiques or criticizes the mechanistic approach to art, and Hegel actually emphasizes art as a spiritual activity. So if you have understood this part of the lecture, we will move to the other lecture in our next video. Thank you so much for watching this video.